Got to make sure it's recording. There you go. We want to make sure that, when we're calling your lead, the lead conversation might be a 10-minute, 15-minute phone call. So you might not see that the lead was called quickly because you're not getting the notification 15 or 20, 25 minutes later sometimes afterwards. Because keep in mind, we're calling these things as quickly as they come in. A high lead flow, we're pushing that 10-minute mark, but we will also have that conversation, which again, sometimes they're a 3-minute conversation, sometimes it's a 20-minute conversation. Then they still have to type up all the notes and send them over to you. So it may be a half hour, even 45 minutes sometimes before you get something. But keep in mind, no matter what, if it's an urgent lead, which we're going to go into in a few minutes, they're going to contact you right away without typing the notes. It's going to be a phone call to you. So what they also do is they verify the lead is thinking of buying or selling at some point in the future. That doesn't mean that they're going to buy, and it doesn't mean they're going to buy from you. That will depend on how good a job you do once you get control of the lead. All we can do is screen to make sure that they said, yes, we're interested in buying or selling at some point. And remember, I'm going to go through this stuff and answer questions and answers. So if you have questions as we're going through this, please make sure you let me know so we can answer them as we go through, which obviously makes sense, right? So what else do we do? We call 6 times approximately every 3 days. It's usually, we found that if we call more than 3 days or less than 3 days, often we get a higher unsubscribe rate. So we try to keep that to about 3 days. It really depends on what's going on at the moment. And we call 6 times. After the 6th time, we are going to continue calling. We're not going to stop calling. We're just not going to call as aggressively because we found the rate of return on those calls after 6 times is less than 5% we get a hold of. Generally, by the time the 6th call comes, we're going to be somewhere in that 70, 75, 80% contact rate. And based on our stats since we started the FCA program, that's held pretty true. We're going to verify the phone number. We're going to verify the email address. We're going to verify the search criteria. Most importantly, we're going to verify their buying time frame. And this is where this service is so important. When you get a call to action, that means we've talked to this lead. They're expecting something from you, whether it be setting up a new search, whether it be calling them right that minute, whatever it may be, you're getting a call to action. But everything we do is based on their buying time frame. As I said earlier, and I think it's somewhere else in the PowerPoint, which those of you know me, I'm ADD and I go everywhere. We, if it's an urgent lead and they want to talk to an agent right then, we're going to call you right then. They're going to tell us something that's different than they're telling you. That's the nature of the beast. I'll give you an example. One of our customers called us, and out of, I think it was 500 or 600 leads that we've called for them, and contacted about 400 of them, they had one person that said, well, this person said they're already working with an agent. That's going to happen, and there's no way around that. People aren't always going to tell us the same thing they tell you. We've been doing this for 9 years at our brokerage at Tropical Realty here in Melbourne, Florida. Some people think I'm Melbourne, Australia, because I sound like I'm from Australia, obviously. But that's, again, nature of the beast. We're going to get some people that lie. That's just the way it works. Very important that you know what we don't do. We do not set up searches for your customers. That's the realtor's responsibility. So we are not setting up those searches as we go through. As I said, here's the note about the urgent contact. So if we have an urgent contact, the FCA manager or one of our analysts will be calling you directly from our office phone number, which is 321-757-4033. When you see that number come through on your caller ID, it's really important that you answer the phone. That means it's a very hot lead that someone wants to talk to a realtor now. This is even more crucial on property inquiries. The general time frame of an agent getting back to a property inquiry is 36 to 48 hours. And by that time, you've lost anything with that lead. If the agent does not answer the phone, then we call the office contact and we give them the info. And they'll do whatever they do with the lead, whether try to get a hold of you or reassign to another agent. That's up to them. When you see a message coming by saying calendared leads, that means that they've stated a date or a month in which they'll be looking at property. So we get 2 different types of internet leads. You get local leads and you get out-of-state leads. At our brokerage, we get about 80% out-of-state. And which means that a lot of the people we calendar or set time frames for 2, 3, 4 months, sometimes 6 months out of reach before they get here. But during that time frame, that's where we build our relationship with them. That's your obligations, we'll talk about in a minute, is making sure that you're having the right mindset when you're converting these leads. We do not follow up leads once we make contact with them. again, for the first call agent, the ISA product does that. But the first call agent, we just make first phone calls with these guys and get a hold of them. We do not set appointments and we do not set reminders. You will get an email. If you're an REW customer, it goes right into your notes and into your history of what the call was and the how we disposition the call. You'll get that with every single lead that we get a hold of, regardless of what the outcome was. So you'll know exactly what's going on with your leads. Immediately upon, this is what your obligations are. Immediately upon receiving a lead, you should always be setting up a search. So what a lot of people have said to me over the years is, well, I don't want to set up a search. You can set me up a search until I talk to them because that's wasting a lot of time. Well, the reality is it could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we get a hold of someone for the first time. If they're getting nothing from you, they're going to move on to another agent, to another website. So every lead that you get, and by the way, every lead, even if they have no phone number that we don't see, you should be taking the time to set up a search. And you do that by looking at what they've been looking at. You can see everything they're viewing in your back end of your site. Your search should be based on what they're viewing, not necessarily what they're searching, but what they're viewing. That's going to give you a lot more accurate search. This next one's really important. We've struggled with this with a few people, and that's why I want to make sure we go over this. You should not, that's why I have not in capital letters, call the lead until we tell you we've reached them. The one thing you don't want to be doing is overcalling these people. So if we're calling them and you're calling them, they're pretty much going to unsubscribe from the site. And we've been doing this for a lot of years, and we didn't start this company because we didn't know what we were doing. We're experts at what we do here. And if you overcall somebody, over email somebody, they will unsubscribe. The rate of unsubscriptions goes up dramatically when you do that. And even honestly, with the first call, we don't see a difference in a 10-minute call or a 2-hour call. It's the exact same contact rate. It's 31%. It's the exact same contact rate. But we, our promise to you is to try to call within 10 minutes. Occasionally, we'll slip on that because of the lead volume, but we're continually working on that to keep that. And as you know, if you've been getting them, you know that these are all done within a couple of minutes at most of the time. If a lead does contact you prior to us contacting the lead, make sure you reach out and let us know that so we can remove them from our list. We can't, again, we don't want to call. If you've talked to the person, and a lot of times because of the voicemails that we're leaving and the calls that we're making, we're branding you. We're leaving your information. They're going to call you and reach out to you, especially if you set up a search. So when that happens, make sure you let us know that so we don't continue to call that person. We want to take them on the list to make us, we don't want us to look unprofessional. It's very important that we all, as a group, look professional in what we do here for us to get the best lead conversion. When you get a scrub lead from us with an action item, once you know that we've made first contact, it's your obligation to call that lead within 24 hours to introduce yourself. Now, I can't make you do that. However, that's what we're telling them on our end. We're telling them, hey, this is Mitch with the Melissa Goldman real estate team, and we do our spiel about talking to them. And at the end, Melissa's going to give you a call within the next 24 hours just to touch base and introduce herself and set the stage. And what we want you telling your customers at that point is what are you going to do for them at that point? How are you going to be in touch with them? And again, that's up to you on how you do that. But if you don't call them within 24 hours, and by the way, you should call them within 2 or 3 hours, but if you don't call within 24 hours, basically everything we're doing here is for naught because they're saying, oh, that group didn't do what they said they were going to do. And that's real estate, right? Real estate 101 is do what you say. If you say you're going to do something, do something. And then depending on that call you have with that lead will determine your callback schedule and stick to that. And I'll go over that in a minute with you guys. It's very important that you have a callback schedule. However, that callback schedule can change based on the conversation that you have. One of the things we find, especially with interest rates being as low as they are right now, people who say they're not buying for 6 months or a year, sometimes buying in a week or a month because they realize, well, I can get more for my money now if I buy a house now. We see this all the time. People say, well, no, I'm not buying for a year. And then we call them a week later after we've been sending a listing on our second call, and all of a sudden they have, well, you know what, we're just ready now. We're going to do it now. And this is why what we're telling you is so important. There's a reason why at our brokerage we convert over 5.5% of our leads. This is the reason why. It's because we're very methodical about what we do. And if you do that, you'll convert a high level of leads too. By the way, with that said, keep in mind, if you converted 5%, you are wicked awesome, right? Wicked awesome. And that means 95% of the leads that you get suck. That's to put it bluntly. That means 95 out of 100 are not going to buy a house from you. If you get to 5, you are incredible. You are one of the best in the world at this. So keep that in your mind that it's a numbers game. You're going to get 100 leads, and you're going to get the national average is 1 sale. If you listen to what we teach you, and we're taking out, we're catching all the urgency stuff, we want to make sure that you're getting there. You're doing the right follow-up afterwards to convert those leads, and understanding the mindset is a huge part of that. I do have a question here, so hold on one second. Okay, hold on a second. Oh, actually, I got a lot of questions here. That's what happens when I don't pay attention, right? Okay, that's good. Sorry, I'm just seeing what everybody's talking about life and what they're doing. One question is, what about texting when we see them online? You can text. I'm okay with that. One thing that we worry about with texting, it goes back and forth on this. There's nobody's really proven to me yet that stalking them when they're online is the right method. We've had success both ways at our office when we've tested this. So I don't know. I haven't really got enough data to tell you that texting while they're online is good. Try it. I mean, worst thing that happens, they disconnect. Remember, that could be one of your 95. They're not going to buy a house from you. So I don't have a problem with it. Texting is always great. Getting a hold of people is it. But I don't recommend. One of the other questions is about not over contacting. How often do you recommend we email or text at any time in between? Okay, so I'm not a huge fan of huge drip campaigns because you're sending them listing updates. If you make their listing updates broad enough, for instance, when we do a listing update in our office, we wanted to make sure there's like 25 plus properties that match that criteria. Now, I know in some markets it's very tight right now. It's tough to do that. But if you send a list of 25 properties to them on their first listing update, you know that they're pretty much 2 or 3 times a week are going to get a listing update from you, which is great because you're in front of them 2 or 3 times. Honestly, the best drip campaign that we use is it goes out every 6 weeks, and it's very simple. It says just checking in, making sure you're getting my updates. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Remember, I can show you any homes in whatever your area is. Out of all the years of creating drip campaigns and doing everything we do, that is still the most powerful drip campaign that we have. You don't want to overdo it. If you overdo it, they unsubscribe. Again, if you know they're looking to, it's all about service. It's all when they need you. That's why listing updates is so important right from the beginning. So there's no real recommendation when. Just don't overdo it or they will unsubscribe. And you'll find yourself, if you decide to be one of those more aggressive people and you start seeing a higher rate of unsubscribing, you'll know that's not the right place to do it. Right? Okay, so let's back. Any other questions at the moment? Okay, cool. I like when people ask questions. It makes my life fun. That's how pathetic my life is, by the way. This is all you do for a living and for your entire life is lead conversion and running a brokerage. This is what your life is. Anyway, so after our first contact with them, after your first contact, after that 24-hour call, you need to call 1 week later to verify one. So the problem with the long-term buyer, we're going to talk about in a minute, if you send them the wrong stuff from the get-go and you don't talk to them for another 2 months, they're probably onto another site already. And the reality is you leads, I'm generally speaking here, to monitor every single lead every single day on what they're searching on your site. So if you have the right contact, and if you call a week after your first conversation, hey, this man just want to check in. I've been sending you listings for a week now. It looks like you've gotten about whatever the number of that listings are. Is this what you're looking for? I want to make sure that I'm giving you exactly what you want. It's, again, all about service. It's not necessarily based on their buying time frame, selling them something because they're not ready to buy yet. Average lead is 233 days. We've been testing this for 1,000 years now. I started doing it with my caveman friends back in the day. I know it's not a funny joke, but they just come out. The key of this is just making sure they're getting what they want. Service, service, service. Which is really all everybody wants from us. If you try to oversell them, you'll lose them. I'll give you an example. One of my agents, is one of my best agents, just called me yesterday about this. He's on the phone with a lead, and she said, and he was really trying to push for an appointment, and he said, I told you I'm not buying for 3 months, and I'm going to go use somebody else because you're just way too pushy for me, Walter. He's one of my best agents. Sold 30 homes from leads last year, but he overdid it. So you got to be, it's a very fine line between service and being a pain in the butt. So the phone call, now that you're working the lead that's been scrubbed, you know the information is correct. You'll have the notes in your system based on the conversation. One of the things that I always tell people with leads, even if it's leads that you have in your database from prior, before we start taking over your leads, nobody ever puts a good phone number in their registration form if they don't want you to call. Think about yourself. Have you ever put your good phone number in on a form you filled out if you don't want them to call? Nobody does. I just did this to a room full of 300 people at a class I was teaching, and I said, how many people? One person actually told me they put their phone number in it, and I'm like, really? He's like, no, I guess I really don't. So even though he thought he did, he was mistaken. These guys give you phone numbers, good phone numbers. Now you know we're calling these people, so we know it's a good phone number. We know they want to be called. We know that you have to build a relationship during that buying time frame. And again, part of this is understanding the mentality is you have a 6-month opportunity to create a relationship, where most agents are going to take on the mindset, call me in 6 months when you're ready. If you get rid of that mindset, you're going to be highly successful. I mean, it's one of the reasons, it's one of the first things we drill into our agents' heads is about building this relationship. And by the way, just to give you an example, last year we had 30 sales from leads that were 7 years or older because of our building relationships. So I answered both those things right there on that slide there. This is our typical phone call schedule. Now, it doesn't mean this is our exact phone call schedule because it changes based on our conversations with the people. But, and by the way, this is recorded, so you'll see all this stuff. Just get it from your broker. If they're buying in more than a year, after that first week calls, we call FCA calls, you call within 24 hours, you call a week later, then we call every 2 months just to touch base, say hi. A lot of this building rapport is not about, it's not necessarily about houses. It's really about what do your kids do, what's your lifestyle. Get to know them as people. Don't hesitate to tell them about your life. This is about, if they like you, they're going to be very, very loyal to you, no matter how many websites they go on. And by the way, the average person registers on 5 websites. Our job as first call agents is to catch the low-hanging fruit so you don't miss it. Because we know that 42% of leads never get called, and we know if a realtor calls, they call once and get a hold of 31%. Again, that's why you guys have hired us to do this job and make sure that you get a higher conversion rate, but we only take it to the call. You've got to take it from the good call, the good scrub lead, forward with the time frames. All right, I'll stop lecturing. Then we reach them. If they're buying in 6 months, we call every 6 weeks. If they're buying, once they get to 3 months, we call once a month. Once they get to a month, we call once a week until they're ready to buy. Again, like I said earlier, these are subject to change based on the conversations with the lead. Any questions about the phone call? We talk about, I think that's, yeah, but next all we're going to do is take questions now. Any questions about the phone call or any questions about what you perceive that we should be doing on our end versus what we are really doing on our end? I want to make sure, again, that's the purpose of this call. I don't want people to think that because we scrubbed a lead that all of a sudden your sales are going to jump a mile. Your sales will jump. I mean, we've got several of our customers, they're writing contracts within the first 4 weeks, and actually closings already. We've had several closings in the first 6 weeks of handling our customers, and it's been great. We've had great feedback. But I want to make sure that you understand your obligations as you move forward. So any questions? Don't make me sit here looking at a screen that's blank. Okay, first question is, do the FCAs put appointments in my calendar for me? So no, we don't schedule your appointments on your calendars because, of course, we don't know what your calendar is. That's why it's very important when we call you and we give you all the notes. And if you've been getting stuff from us, you know our notes are pretty extensive. When we talk to someone, you're getting a pretty extensive note. And by the way, just so you know, on top of that, we call for you Monday through Friday, 9 to 8. And we call on Saturdays, Sundays, noon to 5. We are just getting ready to expand those hours for our West Coast people too. So they'll be covering on the West Coast shortly. Now we're covering till 10 Monday through Friday. So that's till 7 for our West Coast people. That'll be changing shortly too as we go up. Let's see. Do you plan to use REW backend to schedule calls on a planned basis? Right now, do you plan? I'm sorry. Hold on a second. I gotta read that again. We use our platform. Do you use REW back-end schedule calls on a planned basis? I mean, as an agent, not as an FCA. People are asking questions at the same time, so it's making them move. Hold on a second. Do you use REW backend to schedule calls on a planned basis? Sure. So you can use the reminder system in your REW backend to set up reminders on when you're supposed to call these people. So I would do is when I get a lead, I would set up the schedule right from them. If it's every 6 months, if it's 6 months, set them up every 6 weeks till they get to 3 months, and just set up your 10 or 12, 14 phone calls, whatever it is, over the time frame, right away when you get a lead. Absolutely. The more you use the backend, the better. Just curious if you have stats on the breakdown of leads that are wanting to buy immediately and how many 3 months out, 6 months out, over a year. Funny you should ask that question. The stats I can give you are our stats because we've been doing it for so long. So our stats in 2015, actually, if you give me 1 second, I don't know if I can do it on this. Let me see if I can do it here. If you give me 1 second, I'll actually pull up a slide somewhere here. Give me a second, it'll show you the stats so you'll understand it. I got to find it though because my desktop is a mess, as you can see, because that's what I do. I'm a slob. They tell me all geniuses are slobs, but I know I'm not a genius, so I don't really get it. Let me find my, all right. So what this slide is going to show you, it's going to show you a couple of things. Why do agents fail at lead conversion? Agents don't make phone calls. Just thought I'd throw that out there for you. Give me 1 second so I can find this slide for you because it's an important slide. All right, so let me make this bigger. Okay, so what you're looking at here is our 2015 sales, and from leads. And out of our 2015 sales from leads, 54% of those bought from 2015 leads. Okay, 29% bought from 2014 leads, and 17% bought from 2013, 2 years or older leads. So that should answer your question. So, and then I'm going to show you the next slide, which is to me even more interesting, is of those 2015 leads, 50% bought within 3 months. This is why urgency is so important. And I'll guarantee you that a lot of these people that bought within 3 months told us they weren't buying for a year. All right. The other thing is the really even more important number here, 82% of those sales, so 82% of 54% of our leads that bought from last year were bought within 6 months. And again, still another 18 bought within the year. So this is a really important slide to understand that, and this is why our service is so important, is when an agent will typically call lead once, never call again, you just missed 50% of your sales. Because there's not a lot of callback here. They're buying in 3 months, you're buying now. I didn't break that down by 1, 2, and 3 months just because I didn't feel like it. I'll be honest with you. But I'll also show you one other slide, which might be a little more difficult to read because you can see I'm pretty anal when it comes to stats. Last year, my brokerage had 329 sales from leads. But you can see is from our 2009 leads, right, we had 5,208 leads. The first year, we had 127. Second, 8 sales. Second year, 81 sales. Third year, 32 sales. Fourth year, 13 sales. Fifth year, 6 sales. You see what I'm saying? And it just keeps going down here to get us to where we were and then down to our 329 for the year. So it's out of that first group, we had 127 sales the first year, but we had 150 sales over those next few years that every agent misses because they don't follow up. 150 sales. What does that do to change your life? What does it do to change your brokerage's life? It's huge. It's gigantic numbers. Okay. Any questions about any of that? All right. What else? Any other questions? Just making sure I'm not missing anybody here because there's lots of stuff here. All right. One question, which I think I touched on a little bit, is should I be saving searches before you talk to the lead? Again, the most important thing you can do is save searches. And that's very important that you do that right away. The first minute you get a lead, you have to do that. It's super important. I wouldn't waste time. You get the lead, set up a search, and just do it right then. Next question. We've had a few leads that were scrubbed agent needs to call now, and the leads are set up with the expectation we should show them property now, but they were not pre-qualified. What do FCA say regarding pre-qualification? You guys want to answer that? I'm going to have Julie answer that for you.
When our first call agents talk to the leads, we do go through a sequence of questions. Not all the time is the lead going to be working with that information. A lot of times they want to talk to the agent directly about that. That's not to say that we aren't asking. We're also asking in some cases if we would like the agent to, if they would like the agent to, you know, recommend lenders and that sort of thing. So that is on our list of questions to ask the lead. But ultimately, it's the agent's responsibility to follow up on that because we're not always going to get that information. In some cases, people answer the phone when they shouldn't answer the phone. You know, they're in a meeting at work, and we may get, you know what, I am looking to buy a property. You know, my time frame is in about 3 months. My price range is 400,000 to 500,000. Please send me the listings. I can't talk right now. You know, and it may be something that quick versus a conversation that lasts 15 minutes and they tell us everything about, you know, what they're looking for and their kids and what their kids' activities are. So the range of the length of time that we talk to leads can vary greatly, and based on that amount of time that we talk to them is going to depend on whether we get that information.
Right. One of the things to keep in mind with this is it's very important, and I'm going to tell you our rule of thumb at my office, especially if you deal with a lot of people that are out of area. And again, I don't know, you know, everybody here is, you all live in different parts of the U.S. and Canada, so is I call people 4-hour people, and is what we do in our brokerage is when someone's talking to them on the phone, I know myself personally, and maybe yourself, I would never give anybody I don't know any information about anything financially. Just not going to happen. I do stuff all the time, and I will do stuff when I meet somebody in person. I will have my pre-approval letter when I'm buying property personally. But if I'm talking to somebody that I don't know, and we talk to our leads all the time about this stuff. This is not coming from me. This is coming from what our leads have told us. They're not going to do it, especially a high worth person. A high net worth person is not giving you this. So it's not going to call a lender over the phone after they've never met you and go, you know, get pre-qualified someone out of state 99% of the time. With that said, we do get plenty of people that do give us pre-qualifications. But really, I believe it's your job on your end to get the pre-qualification. Again, we're just trying to find out. If they say they're looking at property now, they're saying looking at property now. It's the realtor's job to find out at that point, are they actually going to get pre-qualified, or, you know, where they're at. Hope that answers your question. But we do ask, with that said, but most of the time people won't tell us. I did pull up that slide. Was that the slide I think you wanted? Somebody asked me to pull that slide back up. Okay, thanks. All right, any other questions about anything regarding life? I used to be asked Mr. the date doctor. I can give good dating advice. Stupid jokes, okay. I don't see any more questions. I'll give it another minute or so. Keep in mind that we are always available to answer your questions. That's what we're here for. We've been doing lead conversion forever, literally forever. I've been doing it personally for 14 years. I've been hugely successful at it. The beauty of what we've done over the years is we've been able to change and manipulate and maneuver along everything happening on a regular basis. And that's worked out really, really well for us. So our goal is to help you increase your lead conversion. Again, this is all recorded for you to go back and take a look at. I know I go through things pretty quickly. I'm from Boston. We speak fast. I can't help it. I tried to speak slow once, and I fell asleep at my computer doing a webinar. It wasn't funny. I thought it was funny, actually. So if there's no other questions, we're going to go ahead and call this and end it. And we are so excited and thrilled to be helping you guys convert leads and be your first call agents right now. So take care, everybody.